What's good? It's Woog. We are now going through 2022's honorable mentions. These are the albums that did not make my top 40, but are just outside of the top 40. We're talking 41 through 60. So we're going to quickly go through 20 of the albums that just missed the top 40 albums of 2022. You could go ahead and check out the top 40 albums video. I actually have two of them. I have one where I gave a lot of context per album, and then I have another video where I just kind of, read through them a lot more quickly than I did in the other video. By the way, in these lists, I am excluding ambient and ambient jazz and even certain post-rock albums like Horse Lords, for instance, is not being considered for these lists. I have a separate list that I'm about to put out that includes more instrumental or ambient styles of music. It's a little bit apples and oranges, and I just had a difficult time knowing where to place some of those ambient gems within these lists. So without further ado, let's get into the honorable mentions for 2022. And by the way, should I go 41 through 60, or should I go 60 through 41? Let's go 60 through 41. So then we finish up at the one that just missed the top 40. So at number 60, Spoon with Lucifer on the Moon. I love this Austin band, and some of my favorite albums from them are They Want My Soul. I like Ga 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 Ga, Kill the Moonlight. They've got a few fantastic albums, very good rock band, and I have them here. This is their first album in about 5 years, and they really brought it, I thought, on Lucifer and the Moon. Not their best album, but a very good album that fits well with the rest of their catalog. Spoon at number 60. Number 59, Charlotte Adigéry and Bolus Pupil with Topical Dancer. This is a dance, it's just kind of an electronic, pretty multi-genre, very interesting and very kind of upbeat and groovy rhythmic album. I've seen this album start getting a lot of love from the different publications. I have it at number 59. Kind of, this wasn't a album that I was anticipating or looking forward to, but when I heard it, I'm like, this is pretty damn good. It really captivated my attention, and I've got Topical Dancer at number 59. Number 58, FKA Twigs with Capra Songs. I've seen this album place higher in people's best of 2022 lists. For me, it was a little bit too middle of the road. Maybe I need to give it another listen. And again, these lists, they could change like a couple years down the road. I'm not going to ever alter the list as it stands, but I could do a retrospective list where it, like, say in 2025, I want to look back at 2022 and reevaluate how I see those albums. Maybe this album gets better in my mind, but it wasn't one of my favorite projects from FKA Twigs. I thought it was still pretty good. I like the song that she had with The Weeknd and a few others, but I thought that some of the other songs were playing it a little too safe in terms of its pop leanings. But yeah, Capra Songs, number 58 by FKA Twigs. Number 57, Alex G with God Save the Animals. This is another album that I've seen elevated higher on other people's lists. Some people swear by Alex G. I didn't think that this was one of his best projects. I kind of like his more lo-fi stuff a little bit more. I like his production on this album, but in terms of the songwriting, I didn't think that the melodies, for instance, were just jumping out. I mean, look, I like the opening track of this album a lot, and there are a couple other high points, but I thought that some of the other stuff, it just didn't really make a huge impact, but it was still well produced enough and interesting enough sonically to where I'm like, okay, there's something there. There's definitely something there, but in terms of songwriting and the songs themselves, I didn't think it could elevate this album beyond where I have it placed here at number 57. At number 56, Kikugaku Moyo with Kumoyo Island. This is Kikugaku Moyo, the psychedelic psych rock, psych instrumental, dream pop psych rock band. This is their final album, and I really thought that they brought it on Kumoyo Island. They've got some very, very good instrumentals and other songs that are on some of my other playlists, like on Spotify. I've got a playlist called Psych, P-S-Y-C-H, Psych Party. And, their work features pretty heavily on that playlist. And this was a a great way to exit the run that this band, I mean, they haven't been around for a very long time, what, like 10 years or something? It's been a relatively short career, but I really thought that their discography, given the amount of time they've been around, has been pretty solid in the psych rock realm. So yeah, Kikagaku Moyo, Komoyo Island, number 56 for me. Number 55, Julia Jacklin, Pre-Pleasure. Julia Jacklin, I believe, is from Australia, right? She's one of those indie singer-songwriter kind of just that muted style. You've got a lot of like, you know, Faye Webster, a little different than Wise Blood. Stella Donnelly is also from Australia. I had her in my top 40 with that Flood album. As you know, I like Stella Donnelly's Beware of the Dog album as well. But yeah, this is, you know, Phoebe Bridgers, another person in this same kind of genre. But Julia Jacklin, I feel like she's definitely one of the better artists in this genre. I like her last album prior to this Pre-Pleasure album as well. But yeah, I've got Pre-Pleasure at number 55. Number 54, Jockstrap with I Love You, Jennifer B. I see this album placed in a lot of people's top 10s, top 20s. In fact, Metacritic's aggregate critical, you know, best of scores, this is like one of the top 10, I believe, albums of the year, according to Metacritic. A lot of people are buzzing about this Jockstrap I Love You, Jennifer B album. It's indie, but it's indie meets electronic. It's more on the electronic side of that kind of dream poppy, indie pop style of music. But yeah, Jockstrap getting a ton of love. I like the album, maybe not as much as some people love this album. But yeah, I have it placed in my honorable mentions. Jockstrap, I Love You, Jennifer B. For me, number 54 album of the year. Number 53, Black Thought and Danger Mouse with Cheat Codes. Black Thought of the Roots. Danger Mouse has produced for everybody from, you know, MF Doom to Gnarls Barkley project with CeeLo, you know, crazy. Danger Mouse is has won Producer of the Year Grammy Award. Like, he's produced for the Black Keys. Some of their best stuff was produced by Danger Mouse. Well, he came together with Black Thought, again, of the Roots with Cheat Codes. I love the production. It didn't always match Black Thought's style. Black Thought, I feel, is at his best when he's with a more rugged style of production. There is a lot of polish to the production on this one, but some of the beats and some of the, you know, verses and stuff, it's just undeniable. Even if it's not like a perfect fit for Black Thought. Like, Black Thought, I love Illadelph Half-Life by the Roots. I love Do You Want More by the Roots. I love Things Fall Apart by the Roots. And I don't love as much, but still really like The Tipping Point, Phrenology, Rising Down, a lot of good stuff by the Roots. But I love it when it's more of that gritty style of production. But this one has a lot of moments where it still works very well, and some of the features are very good with like Raekwon the Chef. There's an MF Doom feature. There's some pretty good stuff on here. And yeah, Cheat Codes by Black Thought and Danger Mouse, for me, number 53. By the way, a lot of people have this album on their like best rap albums of 2022 list. So yeah, 53 for me. Cheat Codes. Number 52, Simba, Results Take Time. Simba has kind of made a splash in the rap world. He had a couple very good freestyles on radio shows and so forth that kind of went viral. Well, Simba pretty much put together like it's a very well-rounded rap album. Like my homeboy Greg, I think, has it as his favorite rap album, or maybe just his favorite album of the year. He swears by this album. And I've got a cousin who really loves this Simba Results Take Time album too. I think that it checks all the boxes. Great lyricist, good concepts. The production's good on this album. But I remember an album by Saigon back in the day, maybe like 15 years ago or something, called like The Greatest Story Ever Told. I think that was the name of the album by Saigon. And it was one of those, like, I'm trying to check all the boxes types of albums where, you know, on paper, it seems like it should be like a 5 out of 5, right? 5 mics in the source style album. But I don't know, it's almost like, not that the lyrics are predictable. Like, he's got a lot of clever things that caught me off guard lyrically, but it's a very good album, But there's just something missing X Factor wise, which would put it over the hump and into my top 40 albums of the year. But again, number 52 is just outside of that. So yeah, Simba, Results Take Time, very good album. It made my honorable mentions. Number 51, Animal Collective, the great, psych pop, progressive, indie pop, I don't know, just very experimental pop. Like, they've got some of the best, psych pop, indie pop albums of the past like 15, 20 years, right? I love, I don't like Sung Tongs as much as some people do, but I like Strawberry Jam. Love that one. I love Merriweather Post Pavilion. My favorite song by Animal Collective might be Bluish, but yeah, their last couple albums haven't been as highly acclaimed as their prior work, but Time Skips is probably their best album since that Centipede album. Maybe that Painting With album. Maybe even their best stuff since Merriweather Post Pavilion. This is a very good album, Time Skips. It's got a few really good highlights, and Panda Bear from Animal Collective, I actually have in my top 40 albums of the year. The project Reset that he did with Sonic Boom, that's actually my top 40. I have that better than the actual Animal Collective Time Skips album. But yeah, Time Skips made number 51 for me. Number 50, Little Sims with No Thank You. Little Sims had my number 1 album of 2021. Sometimes I Might Be Introvert. That's my favorite album of 2021. She also had arguably my favorite song from 2021. That was Point and Kill with Abong Jayar. It was Little Sims featuring Abong Jayar from that Sometimes I Might Be Introvert album, Point and Kill. So Little Sims, between that Sometimes I Might Be Introvert album, the album that she had before that called Gray Area, phenomenal album as well. She is just killing it right now. And her producer is as genius and brilliant as she seems to be. Inflow, if you don't know, he is the producer of Salt. Salt is they were kind of like a mystery collective, but it's Inflow, the producer. It's Cleo Soul, the vocalist, and his kid sister, who, was doing songs with like Kanye West like 15 years ago. Like, the kid sister seemed like she had a fledgling career and then kind of disappeared, but now has reemerged in that Salt collective. But yeah, the producer from Salt, Inflow, is Little Sims's. He produced like her entire albums. And No Thank You, it just dropped. So there's a chance that if I do a retrospective and I look at 2022 from a 2025 lens, like a couple years from now, this No Thank You album might end up being better than I initially, after the first couple listens, feel like it is. Maybe I need to give it a more thorough listen, but at this point, I have it at number 50, just outside of my top 40. Good album. Not as good as Sometimes I Might Be Introvert, but again, time will tell how I ultimately feel about this one. But yeah, right now, I've got Little Sims, No Thank You, at number 50. Number 49, Drake and 21 Savage with Her Loss. Drake is always polarizing with how people perceive the albums. Most people don't give his albums as much love as they give the artist Drake, right? And his verses, or how he comes off like on a particular song, right? He's just killed it commercially for like the past, since 2007, 2008. He's just been killing it, right? But I feel like his albums are always kind of like, they're not seen as being greater than the sum of their parts. This is actually one of his best projects, I feel like, out of his last few releases. Maybe his best since Scorpion, or maybe even before that. I don't know, his best since Views. It's tough to tell, but I really like this Drake and 21 Savage project, Her Loss. Speaking of 21 Savage, by the way, I didn't get to listen to Metro Boomin. Well, by the time I had my top 40 list, I hadn't yet listened to that brand new Metro Boomin album. I'm going to include that on my I haven't gotten to listen to this yet list, by the way. But yeah, that's a very good album as well. But yeah, I like this Drake and 21 Savage project, Her Loss. Drake has some of those like very biographical kind of like check-in, long verse type of songs, and those are usually my favorite Drake moments, where he's just spitting for like 3 minutes or something like that. But yeah, there are a few of those moments on this Her Loss album. So I've got this one at number 49. Number 48, Horse Girl, Versions of Modern Performance. This almost has like a like an early Sonic Youth type of feel. It's the same kind of vibe with the kind of fuzzy guitars, a lot of reverb on the guitars, kind of that that almost shoegazy feel, but not total shoegaze, kind of like a hybrid of shoegaze, post-punk. You'll know it when you hear the sound. But yeah, I mean, I was listening to this thinking, yeah, this has some like, Sonic Youth leanings, maybe even some of that Dinosaur Jr. type of feel. But yeah, this was a very good album. Horse Girl, I think they're going to make some noise. We'll see where they go from here. Relatively new band. But yeah, Horse Girl, Versions of Modern Performance, I have at number 48. Number 47, Earl Sweatshirt with Sick, the Odd Future alum. He had an album called Some Rap Songs that made a lot of people's like best rap albums of, I think it was 2017 or 2018 lists. But Earl Sweatshirt, I don't know why I didn't rank this one higher. Maybe as time goes on, I'll elevate it. It's very good. I mean, he just sounds so despondent and quite frankly depressed in a lot of these songs. And I don't know if it was just like a little bit too much for me, like when I was listening to it, to where I didn't rank it higher. But it's quality. He just has a very particular sound where, he could just have a song or a few songs with like no chorus, and it's just kind of like a 2-minute song with him just spitting a very, sophisticated wordplay-ish lyrical verse. And sometimes it'll just be like a very lo-fi style beat. The production is usually pretty solid. It's a little bit MF Doomy when you listen to some of these Earl Sweatshirt projects. But yeah, the verses just sound so despondent sometimes. And, he used to collab a lot with like Mac Miller and people like that. I just hope for his sake that he is okay emotionally. And I hope that if he's not okay emotionally, that he has enough like guardrails to kind of keep him on a somewhat even keel. But from a life perspective, I really pull for Earl Sweatshirt. Remember the Free Earl campaign back in the day when Odd Future was just getting started? Well, he's dropped like a few very good albums since that. Like Doris was very good. Again, Some Rap Songs was very good. And now we've got Sick with the exclamation point, which you will see on a lot of people's like top best albums of 2020 list. He just missed my top 40. Again, I've got Earl Sweatshirt with Sick, one of the best, better lyrical rappers. And just, in terms of the wordplay, I remember he said something about back in the day on another project, something about life is harder than Vince Carter's knee cartilage is, or something like that. But yeah, something about a point of it is life is harder than Vince Carter's knee cartilage is. And just like you hear those like little tongue twisters, I really appreciate that type of stuff. But yeah, Earl Sweatshirt, Sick, number 47 for me. Number 46, one of my favorite bands, Beach House with Once, Twice, Melody. No, I don't love this album as much as, Bloom or Teen Dream, but this is a very good album. This is by far the longest Beach House album. They issued this album and basically released it by doing one EP, then a second and a third, and then a fourth EP, then combining it all as the whole album, Once, Twice, Melody. I actually saw their live performance. That's where I got this shirt. And I just really love this band, but maybe it was just too much Beach House, or maybe Beach House just shouldn't be making an album quite this long. Maybe my feelings will change about this album as time moves on. But like, I prefer the Depression Cherry album or Thank Your Lucky Stars over this album, I think. Or that album 7, I think that I favor more than this album. Maybe even Devotion. I don't know exactly yet where I place this in Beach House's discography, but this is a very long album. And when you have an album that long, with that Beach House sound, where it's just a very a pillowy style of dream pop, right? Where, Victoria Legrand's got that enchanting voice that just sounds like it's coming from like outer space, basically. It's just a lot to take in for an album this long. So yeah, maybe it just wore on me a little bit to where it missed my top 40. But yeah, Beach House, Once, Twice, Melody, number 46 for me. Number 45, Art Moore with Art Moore. Art Moore, I guess, is kind of like the latest or one of the newer artists in this, dream pop, singer-songwriter, indie dream pop category. It took me by surprise. I wasn't familiar with the artist, but it was actually a lot of those where they give you the radio after you've completed an album and you don't know that the album then transition into other similar style songs on Spotify. Well, I ran into like multiple singles from Art Moore, or at least multiple songs. I don't know if they were issued as singles from Art Moore. And I'm like, damn, this is pretty impressive. So then I gave the album a listen. I'm like, yeah, there's definitely something here. And while I was fleshing this out, it looked for a while like Art Moore was going to make my actual top 40, but because of some of the other entries into the top 40, it got pushed just outside of the top 40. But here we are. Art Moore, I can't wait to hear what she has going forward. But yeah, Art Moore with Art Moore at number 45 for me. Number 44, Westside Gunn with 10. This is his second album of 2022. Or yeah, this was his. Yeah, he had an earlier release from 2022, which was more of like a compilation or like a collab with other artists like Stove God. But yeah, Westside Gunn is one of the more entertaining voices of rap. You just hear that hey yo style, and you're like, okay, here we go. But I also feel like he's kind of the most slept on in the Griselda camp. When they first started to emerge and they were signed, by like Eminem and stuff, when it was mostly just Conway and Westside Gunn, they had their mixtapes in the past and stuff, but they were like seen to be a duo. Well, since then, Benny the Butcher has emerged and released some very good albums, and Griselda has kind of like widened and kind of fleshed out, some other, talented artists as well. But yeah, Westside Gunn was seen to be as good as anybody. Like him and Conway were just super lyrical, super like rugged and ruthless in their bars and stuff. But like, I feel like Conway has emerged to be the most album by album acclaimed artist from the camp, followed closely by Benny the Butcher. And I feel like Westside Gunn has kind of been the odd man out, even though he's kind of seen as being like the mind behind the whole, the greater Griselda operation, right? So he's almost seen as like more the exec than the most talented artist. But no, don't sleep on Westside Gunn's lyricism, his ability to make interesting and compelling tracks. And I thought the 10, this album, was very, very good. And it barely missed my top 40. So yeah, we've got Westside Gunn at number 44 with 10. Number 43, Dry Cleaning with Stunt Work. Dry Cleaning is one of the more interesting new artists on the post-punk, post-rock, post-punk scene. It's one of those where the female vocalist is talking more than she's singing, but it's not like Sledford Mods type talking, but it is cheeky, it is very conversational, and some of the guitar licks on these post-punkish songs from this album Stunt Work, and this is already, I think this is their second or third full album. So this is their second full album. They had New Long Leg in 2021, but it was initially a couple of EPs that they had from 2018, 2019 that really drew me in and like start to really take notice of Dry Cleaning. But yeah, Stunt Work might be a little better than New Long Leg. I don't know yet, but yeah, very interesting band from the UK, and again, a very conversational style of vocalizing on the tracks. Very my homeboy George put it pretty well when he said that listening to Dry Cleaning makes him want to have a cigarette, and I get what he's saying with that. But yeah, Dry Cleaning with Stunt Work, number 43. Number 42, Vince Staples out of Long Beach, California with Ramona Park, Broke My Heart. Vince Staples, oh, by the way, I'm out of Long Beach. That's where I'm shooting from. That's where I reside. But Vince Staples, one of the more interesting figures in the rap game. Like his interviews and commentary and tweets are about as interesting as his music. Very good lyricist, but he's not one of those like I'm trying too hard to be a lyricist style of lyricist. Like there's lyrical miracle type of rappers who will just be doing the most lyrically, and some of it is jaw dropping and sensational. Vince Staples is able to do it and make it kind of seem sort of effortless. So where he takes a little bit of speed off the fastball in terms of that acrobatic lyrical stuff, he is still making very interesting verses and music. And I feel like his albums are almost a little bit slept on because he was so highly touted with his first couple of EPs, mixtapes, and his first album where it was super critically acclaimed, that I feel like his last couple projects after the Big Fish Theory album kind of got put a little bit to the wayside, where he's not as considered among these best of rap albums list as he was with his first couple of projects. I don't know quite why that is, but I look at Ramona Park Broke My Heart as being about as good as anything we've gotten from Vince Staples. I thought that this one was a little bit slept on, as was his Vince Staples album from like last year or the year before. His last two projects, very good, but again, pretty damn slept on. But I've got Ramona Park Broke My Heart by Vince Staples at number 42. Very, very talented dude, and one of the more healthy voices in the rap game, because again, he comes from Long Beach, which is a pretty known for the gang activity in some of the areas within Long Beach, but he's got such a interesting perspective to where he doesn't criticize the culture in a finger pointing way. He embraces it and criticizes it at the same time. Kind of hard to explain, but yeah, check Vince Staples' music out. I've got him at number 42 here. And then at number 41, just missing my top 40, the classic rock band Jethro Tull with the Zealot Gene. Jethro Tull, mostly known for the Aqua Lung album, also known for having like a lead singer, Ian Anderson, who plays the flute. Jethro Tull has made some of the best classic rock music of the early to mid 70s and have continued to release music throughout the decades, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and so forth. This was a very good album. And sometimes like the classic rockers, like when like the Monkees had a pretty good album a few years ago. We had the Kinks recently make a pretty good album, or at least members from the Kinks. And last year, Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac had a very good album. But sometimes they are not considered. I mean, Robert Plant is often considered when he's doing his solo thing or his work with Alison Krauss. But I feel like a lot of classic rockers who still make music, their music really gets slept on when being considered as one of the best albums of the particular year. But yeah, Jethro Tull, this was a very good album if you give it a listen. But they've had very good albums like, again, early 70s, Aqualung, Thick as a Brick, and Stand Up are probably my three favorite Jethro Tull projects. But the Zealot Gene, this was very impressive. It was very good sonically, very interesting in terms of the lyrics and the concepts of the songs. Yes, they are much older than they were in their heyday, but they still have a lot to give. Just listen to the songwriting from Ian Anderson, always a provocative wordsmith and songwriter. But yeah, give Jethro Tull, the Zealot Gene, a listen. I've got it at number 41. But yeah, that is my list of honorable mentions from 41 to 60. Let me know what you thought. And again, if you haven't checked out my top 40 albums of 2022, give that a look. Let me know what some of your favorite albums from this year, 2022, are in the comments. And please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love music like I do. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.